After 7 years of living in my home, my daughter-in-law and son discovered an amazing $87 million in bearer bonds hidden in the attic. Tom's mind raced at the thought of this revelation, a fortune that could wipe away the weight of his dwindling savings and fading job prospects. Thoughts of Jake's dreams of a landscaping business and Sarah's hopes for a home filled with laughter danced tantalizingly in front of him. Yet, as their voices melded in excitement around him, Tom felt an unsettling chill seep into his bones, a gnawing dread within the heart of his modest brick house. He had held on to memories after his wife passed, nurturing their family traditions of Sunday pot roasts and game nights, believing that financial struggles could be salved by love, sweat, and honesty. Now, as clutter encumbered every corner of their shared home, the echo of the past expanded with the specter of the impossible. Could these riches taint the soul of their cherished unity? Each creak of the attic floorboards beneath his feet sent tremors through him, unsettling his well-ordered mind. Jake and Sarah were awash in plans, travel, a new business, opportunities unimagined. But Tom felt like he was shouting against a deafening tide. His chest tightened as worry draped itself over him. What would it mean for them to embrace such unearned wealth? Was this treasure a blessing or a curse? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tom's thoughts spiraled further into a maze of dilemmas. Each time his son exclaimed with enthusiasm, swinging a broomstick like a scepter of power, Tom felt sick, thinking of the greedy roots that might lie beneath the laughter. They didn't yet comprehend the burden tucked away in that rusted safe. Could he allow them to drift toward a destiny crafted without understanding where that wealth came from? The attic now felt like a coffin, its stale air stifling his own. As they churned through documents, digging deeper into the family history, Tom's stomach churned. Each revelation whispered dark secrets, losses suffered, enduring struggles, sacrifices made that could reveal a legacy laced with shame. What stories had he preserved clinging to only the good? Pieces that told of a family legacy mired in moral ambiguity. They had built lives on the foundation of honesty, yet here they stood on the precipice of a future sketched without clarity. The duality of their fate hung heavy in the air, standing still while their hearts raced. Tension coiled tighter with each piece of paper unfurling before them. The promise of wealth painted grim possibilities, indifference to their past, questions that threatened to unravel their bond. All at once, the excitement fizzled, replaced by a stifling fear of the unknown. Would claiming this fortune deal the death blow to the very foundation he had fought to uphold? How could he bear witnessing their joy juxtaposed with the train wreck of the truth? They stood at a crossroads, and the culmination of that knowledge felt dangerously close. An unraveling knot pulling tighter, one that Tom couldn't ignore. What lay ahead would require a reckoning, a fateful decision that threatened the harmony he had fought to maintain since his wife's passing. The air crackled with an impossible choice that would haunt them all. Tom's mind raced, focusing on the enormity of the decision that loomed before him, overshadowing even the ecstasy of newfound wealth. While Jake and Sarah beamed with dreams, Tom felt the weight of a lifetime of values settle heavily upon his shoulders. Each joyful exclamation from them felt like a painful reminder of the rift forming between past and future, a chasm filled with uncertainty. Without warning, that attic, once a sanctuary of cherished memories, became a burden. Each Yuletide ornament, every dusty box captured a reality he had embraced, but now it felt haunted by the specter of complicity in their ignorance. He realized he was trapped in a cage constructed from love and fear, love for his family, and fear of the implications of this discovery. He needed to act, to navigate this turbulent new terrain without losing the principles he had raised his children on. As they gathered for dinner that night, laughter and ambition hung heavily in the air. Tom watched his family enjoy a simple meal, the familiar feel of warmth instantly undercut by his thoughts racing into troubling territory. Jake discussed plans for the landscaping business, his eyes sparkling with hope, while Sarah dreamt aloud about a home with a yard filled with children's laughter, each syllable dripping with expectation. Tom savored his son's enthusiasm, yet found himself wrestling with an agonizing truth that threatened to overshadow it all. How could he possibly express his concerns without dimming their light? The dilemma churned within him like a brewing storm. He was not just their father and father-in-law, but their moral compass. He had to ensure they didn't mistake wealth for worth, didn't let cash dictate their dreams. His voice trembled when he spoke. "You know, wealth can change people." It felt as if the room had suddenly grown colder. Jake's smile faltered for a brief moment, then returned, albeit uneasily. "Come on, Dad. This is a chance for us. We deserve a fresh start." Tom stared into Jake's hopeful eyes and questioned whether he was prepared to strip them of that hope. His heart sank further. How had their conversation turned from excitement to this stark inevitability? Was he losing the very thing he had fought to uphold? He felt a tight ball of apprehension in his chest. "Before delving too much into what this money means for our future," Tom started, weighing his words, "we need to understand what it represents for us as a family." The room fell silent, the clink of forks pausing mid-air as Sarah looked at him quizzically. "What do you mean?" He inhaled sharply, steeling himself against the tide of fear that encroached on his resolve. "We also must confront the past. There are legacies in that attic that come with weight. Are we prepared to uncover the truth?" Jake's brow wrinkled in confusion, while Sarah shifted nervously, sensing the intensity of his stillness. Tom recognized a pivotal shift in their dynamics. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Yet he couldn't help but question if he had overstepped by introducing uncomfortable truths. The silence hung palpably, thick enough to slice through, and he wondered if honesty amounted to betrayal. Their eyes, wide with expectation, awaited his next words like a spark that could ignite a wildfire. As dusk settled outside, their well of dreams teetered on a precipice. Would they embrace candor or retreat into blissful ignorance? The faint click of the door softly reminded him that the attic still held the answers he desperately needed to confront. Tomorrow he would lead them back into its cavernous depths, a place burdened with secrets. He could only hope they would emerge transformed with understanding rather than ensnared by gold. With a sense of trepidation, he knew the true battle was just beginning, the fight to maintain integrity amidst chaos, to forge meaning from abundance without sacrificing their bond. What awaited them in that attic would not only unveil the past, but also dictate the future they would craft together. In the quiet of the night, resting his head on a familiar pillow, Tom knew tomorrow would mark a turning point in their lives, an irreversible step into a different realm of reality. Would they choose to embrace the shadows, or would they turn away, shrouded in their dreams of ambition? Tom woke early, the sun barely cresting the horizon, yet the weight of the day ahead pressed heavily on him. He watched the first rays of light filter through the curtains, illuminating the familiar contours of his room and the corner where the forgotten relics of time lay. Each artifact from the attic held a truth that he could no longer ignore. Today would demand courage from him, a vulnerability he had yet to display. As he padded downstairs, the quiet of the house contrasted sharply with the tumult in his mind. Tom prepared coffee, the familiar ritual grounding him for the confrontation awaiting him. He concentrated on each step, the sound of the kettle, the weight of the cup, the rich aroma filling the air. These remained constant even as his life began to unravel into uncertainty. He remembered the countless hours spent shaping his children's values, teaching them the merits of hard work and the importance of humility. Now, with wealth dangling before them like a tempting fruit, he questioned if his lessons would hold firm. The attic held more than family memorabilia. It was a shrine to the ethics that had been his guiding light. What if those teachings were about to clash with the allure of sudden prosperity? Jake and Sarah emerged a short while later, their faces lit with anticipation. The morning energy pulsed with excitement, a stark contrast to Tom's simmering dread. He immediately felt the heaviness settle in his throat as he faced them, the burden of disclosure pressing against his chest. "Are you ready for today?" he ventured, his fingers gripping the table's edge, unwilling to meet their bright eyes. "More than ready! I can't wait to see what we find!" Jake exclaimed, his enthusiasm bordering on reckless. Sarah nodded, her eyes sparkling with possibility. They were full of hope, blissfully unaware of the complexities they were about to unearth. Forcing a smile, Tom decided to lead them toward the attic, his pulse quickening with every step. He realized he could no longer shield them from the intricacies their lives might soon be woven into. Descending into the depths marked the beginning of an arduous journey toward understanding, one he wished they could skip. Yet if they were to grasp the true meaning of their wealth, they had to confront the past that came with it. As they approached the dusty attic door, Tom's heart raced with the combination of dread and an underlying current of hope. Perhaps unveiling the family's legacy would provide a foundation on which they could build an egalitarian desire for success. He cleared his throat, ready to reveal his beliefs. "Before we dive in, I want you both to remember that we need to deal with what we find and not be blinded by the treasure in front of us." His voice, albeit wavering, steadied as he looked at them. "Yeah, Dad, we know," Jake replied, though a hint of impatience edged his tone. It stung, igniting a small flicker of resistance within Tom. Was he being perceived as out of touch? Regardless of their reactions, he could not shy away from his core beliefs. With a deep breath, he opened the attic door, revealing a realm of shadows and cobwebs. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light, an echo of memories suspended in time. They climbed the stairs, the air thick with anticipation and the unmistakable smell of aged paper and timber. As they stepped inside, Tom's pulse quickened. Boxes of forgotten memories lined the walls, the past waiting to unveil stories that might shift the delicate equilibrium of their current lives. "Let's start here," he said, gesturing toward the nearest box, aware that this moment was not merely an unearthing of objects, but a revelation of family identity, an identity set against the impending tide of newfound wealth. The first box opened with a soft creak, and inside lay childhood drawings and photographs, innocent symbols of their shared history. A chilly dread washed over Tom. Were they prepared for the reality of what the attic truly represented? Would principles forged in struggle withstand the allure of excess? As Jake rifled through the papers, he looked up, confusion mingling with innocence. "What are we looking for again?" Here it was, a moment requiring clarity. Tom suddenly realized that it was not just about the unveiling. It was a pivotal juncture in his family's history. He could feel the walls tightening around him as he determined to lead with honesty and responsibility. He would not allow them to collapse under the weight of their expectations. "Today, we're tracing our lineage," he clarified, his heart racing as he spoke. "This is about understanding who we are as a family before we chase what we could become." As uncertainty etched itself deeper into his resolve, Tom held his breath, waiting for their response. Would they grasp the magnitude of his words, or would they resist the path before them? Suddenly, from the depths of the box, Jake pulled out an old ledger, and with it, the intrusions of their forgotten past burst forth into the present. What had the attic been keeping at bay for so long? The moment of revelation loomed. Would they embrace it, or would they retreat? Tom's heart pounded in his chest, anticipation lacing through him as he regarded the dust-laden ledger Jake had just uncovered. The fragile pages, yellowed with age, whispered secrets of a bygone era, a time that shaped their family's past in ways they were yet to comprehend. What had he prepared them for? The notion of comfort fading from his mind, he reached out, intent on grasping the ledger from Jake's hands, the weight of it heavy with history. "Let's not rush," he cautioned, feeling a twinge of unease at the burgeoning thrill in Jake's eyes. "We need to approach this carefully." He needed them to see beyond the allure of wealth, a boisterous anthem that had the power to derail their lives if taken lightly. Holding the book, Tom began leafing through the brittle pages, an unfamiliar blend of excitement and anxiety swirling within him. Written in a script both elegant and archaic, the entries detailed transactions that were not merely fiscal, but personal. Notes on family milestones, dreams, failures, and triumphs shared. A crinkled photograph slid from between the pages and fluttered to the floor, landing next to a wooden beam saturated with years of neglect. It was a black and white image of a younger couple, a familiar likeness emanating from their faces, his grandparents. "This is..." Tom's voice quivered with recognition. "My grandfather and grandmother." Their smiles were radiant, embodying a time when aspirations were forged through laborious commitment rather than monetary gain. It was a legacy rooted in values he desperately wished to uphold. "Still, what does this mean for us now?" Sarah interjected, her brow knitted with curiosity, her eagerness faltering as she sensed the complexity in Tom's tone. "Is there more to this ledger?" With a deep breath, Tom considered the gravity of their situation. The allure of newfound wealth wasn't just a fascination to them. It embodied a crossroads that could define their family dynamics for generations. "It means understanding our roots," he replied, his voice firm. "It's not about how much money we're connected to, but what those connections can teach us about who we are." Jake, still impulsive, flipped through the pages more hastily. "We could just sell whatever this is worth. This is unreal." Tom felt mounting tension, a clash between hope and caution. "We don't even know everything yet. We need to understand what we might be losing in the process," he said, digging deeper into their family's ethos as if it were a lifeline. As his children processed his words, Tom's mind began spiraling into deeper reflections. Could they truly internalize these lessons together? For too long, he had sheltered them from the lessons learned through hardship in pursuit of a better future. Was this his moment to recalibrate their understanding of wealth, or was it a risk of losing them in the urgency of their desires? He felt compelled to uphold their family narrative, yet a burgeoning conflict rooted in his trepidation constrained him. Would he push them away if he overemphasized the weight of legacy? Suddenly, Jake retrieved one more item from the depths of the box, an envelope sealed tightly with an ornate wax insignia. "Dad, come look at this." The words burst out of Jake, slicing through the tension like a knife. Tom's breath caught. What else lurked in this flickering twilight of discovery? The contents of the envelope seemed to thrum with importance, as if it held answers to the questions he hadn't allowed himself to voice. Just moments before, he stood on the brink of clarity, but now a wave of apprehension washed over him, a sense that the deeper they delved into their past, the more tangled their present might become. As he reached for the envelope, an unseen current stirred within him. Whatever lay ahead, confronting the intricacies of their heritage might just reveal the key to their next chapter, or entangle them in a web of unintended consequences. Tom glanced at his children, sensing their anticipation morphing from excitement to something charged and uncertain. This journey was not solely about wealth. It was about navigating the legacy they carried and the responsibilities it entailed. Would they stand united through revelations that could reshape their lives? Or would they fracture under the weight of expectations? With a steadying breath, he broke the wax seal, and just then, the attic felt charged with an electric energy. What awaited them beyond this threshold might shift everything they thought they knew. As the first word of the letter revealed itself, the undeniable truth loomed. Would they embrace their family's essence, or would they be swept away by desires they were yet to understand? The moment of revelation was inescapable, and Tom's next words would define the gravity of their shared journey. What awaited them would either bind them together or test the very foundation of their bonds. As Tom unfolded the paper, the aged fabric of time seemed to hold its breath. The words started to emerge, their significance rippling through the stillness of the attic. He read aloud slowly, almost reverently. To those who come after, remember that our wealth is not just in possessions or currency, but in the character we forge through adversity. His voice faded, caught between the weight of legacy and the staring faces of his children. Tom felt a shiver of reality compounding on his shoulders. His role as a father was calling for more than mere guidance. It demanded vulnerability. "What does that even mean?" Jake asked, a frown contorting his youthful enthusiasm. "We're talking about money, right? Aren't we supposed to be cashing in?" "Hold on," Tom said with renewed authority. "There's more." He pressed on, revealing how the letter detailed not only the value of financial gain, but offered a catalog of lessons learned from mistakes. Each recounting was laced with humility, and beneath it, an emotional narrative came alive. Misfortunes with investments and partnerships transformed into moments of growth, a reminder of the importance of learning from failure. As Tom processed the words, his children remained silent. He could feel the flicker of consciousness igniting within each of them. Was it possible they'd come to realize the weight of an existence too easily defined by dollar signs? The ledger had become something more, a roadmap woven into the tapestry of their lives, a guide leading them through decisions anticipated and unforeseen. "Do you really believe we should keep this?" Sarah's voice broke through the reverie, layered with contemplation. "Are we ready for what it all means?" Tom struggled with an urgency that buzzed within him. Could he steer them toward valuing the lessons over the riches? It's not just the legacy of our grandparents we carry, it's about what we choose to create on our own. Their mistakes can prevent us from making similar ones. Jake interjected, "Or we could leverage this and become, I don't know, successful?" The idea hung in the air, seductive yet potentially hollow. "Right," Tom replied slowly, searching Jake's youthful conviction for clarity. "But success without depth is just a house built on sand. What do we want to achieve? Success that aligns with our values or mere wealth?" A moment of silence washed over them. Each pulse echoed a growing realization. Their father was hinting at an emotional depth that required exploration. Just then, Tom noticed the sun filtering through the attic's small window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the light. It transformed his surroundings, contrasting the musty confinement of the attic with the promise of illumination. He felt a shift in his resolve, to challenge his children to confront deeper questions. "How about we each take a moment," he suggested, leaning forward, "to ponder what this means for us personally. I want us to write down our thoughts and share them. If we're going to navigate this together, it must come from authentic feelings and not just financial ambitions." There was hesitation at first, but he sensed their minds churning, absorbing the exercise's necessity. This moment would reflect their growth, compel them to reckon with their desires and fears. Sarah nodded, drawing her tablet closer, while Jake grabbed a scrap of paper. Tom himself took a pen, this simple act becoming a mundane ritual infused with monumental significance. As each of them began to write, he set his gaze around the attic, a space that had become not just a repository for their family history, but also a backdrop for their personal evolution. Moments passed as they mulled over their words, each stroke unearthing layers of introspection Tom hadn't anticipated. Shadows of doubt loomed nearby. Was he strong enough to guide them through the acceptance of trial over triumph? And after what felt like an eternity, Sarah finally broke the silence. "I've got something." Her voice carried an excitement mingled with anxiety, prompting Tom to focus his attention entirely on her. As she began to speak, The new perspective she offered ignited a flicker of recognition in Tom, a stepping stone toward profound change, their very lives at the mercy of the legacy they would choose to embrace. Yet before she could finish, a glint from the ledger's pages caught Tom's eye. A marked passage appeared significant, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they had only begun to scratch the surface. The attic echoed with unspent potential while the weight of their heritage pressed upon them. Tom's heart raced. The urgency of revelation loomed closer. What other treasures could be hidden within these pages, and how would they redefine what it meant to be a family, moving forward? The anticipation vibrated palpably, leaving them on the cusp of a life-altering decision, teetering between self-discovery and the allure of wealth as he prepared to turn the page once more. The attic's air crackled with unspoken tension, a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Tom felt an inexplicable pull towards the ledger, its pages whispering promises of insight yet to be grasped. As Sarah waited to share her thoughts, an urgency ignited within him. He had to uncover what lay hidden before them. With a determined breath, Tom carefully turned the page, revealing meticulously written entries from decades past. Accounts of disappointment and triumph littered the text, each passage chronicling not merely financial transactions, but emotional scars and hard-won wisdom. He could sense the gravity of each choice made, shaping not only the past, but resonating painfully into the present. "Listen," he urged, his voice steadying as if to anchor them to the moment. "This ledger is far more than a record of losses and gains. It's our family's blueprint for resilience." He felt compelled to explain further, his mind racing with the implications. Sarah's eyes widened as she absorbed the words, while Jake leaned forward, curiosity overpowering his initial skepticism. "So, you're saying the way they dealt with failure can teach us how to succeed?" "Exactly. The true wealth of this family isn't just in what we stand to inherit, but in the lessons embedded in these stories." Tom's gaze drifted, tracing the notes while his heart raced. Would they see the opportunity for growth, or would they let the past remain unexamined? "Okay, but it's still a lot of pressure." Jake crossed his arms, an undercurrent of defiance coloring his tone. "If this is supposed to make us better, it also feels like an obligation we didn't ask for." It stung, but Tom recognized a challenge that required careful navigation. "It is a burden, but also a gift. We can choose to carry it with grace. The question is whether we're willing to step into that responsibility. Each of us must uncover how we align our paths with the character forged in these stories." Silence enveloped the room as the weight of his words sank in. The sunlight continued to dance through the dust, its warmth contrasting with the chilly uncertainty in Tom's gut. What if they resisted this chance for transformation? "Let me tell you about this entry here," he said, pointing to one with shaking hands that detailed a family member's bankruptcy. "This isn't just failure, it's a testament to resilience. They lost everything, yet rather than retreat, they rebuilt, learning what really mattered in life." He sensed they were teetering on the precipice of a deeper understanding. Jake shifted in his seat, visibly torn between youthful bravado and the dawning awareness of familial responsibility. Sarah, still quiet, seemed to digest each revelation, her expressions hinting at the internal battle playing out beneath the surface. "Maybe it's about asking ourselves," Tom continued. "What will we do differently? How can we avoid making the same missteps?" Sarah finally spoke, her voice measured yet hopeful. "I think I get it." "What?" Jake asked, a hint of skepticism lingering in his tone. "I think we don't have to follow in their footsteps if we choose to learn from them. We need to carve out our own journey based on what truly matters." Encouraged, Tom stepped back, allowing his children to reflect on her insight. Their minds were wrestling with the burdens of legacy, but also the shimmering potential of truly understanding what wealth could mean in their lives. Would they enrich their future, or would the pressures of expectation suffocate their growth? Yet, as Tom basked in the unfolding connection between them, a new anxiety crept in. Could he truly facilitate that journey, help them reflect inward when the world constantly beckoned them outward? The ledger now felt like an ally, as did the flickering hope that perhaps, amidst the shadows of doubt, there awaited a path toward liberation. But just as Tom felt the flicker of determination coalesce, Jake's phone buzzed violently in the silence. He checked it and froze, the screen illuminating his face with a mixture of disbelief and excitement. "You guys have to see this. There's something significant happening outside." The air thickened with tension and curiosity, pushing Tom to recognize that their moment of introspection was being interrupted by the world beyond the attic. A world filled with unexpected revelations, waiting just outside their door. Tom felt the sudden rush of adrenaline as Jake's words reverberated in the attic, pulling them back from their introspection and thrusting them into the unknown. Each passing moment was charged with a mix of anticipation and dread. What news had shattered their intimate session in the cramped attic? "Show us," Tom urged, the combination of worry and hope flaring within him. His heart raced, imagining the potential ramifications of whatever news awaited them. He shared a quick glance with Sarah, who seemed poised on the edge of an emotional cliff, her expression a mix of excitement and anxiety. Jake bolted for the attic stairs, and Tom followed, his mind racing with possibilities. As he reached the door, he hesitated for a fleeting moment. The connection they had begun to forge felt fragile, yet vital. Would this external distraction be a setback? Or would it propel them toward an unforeseen opportunity? Descending the stairs, Tom reached the living room, his pulse quickening the moment he stepped outside. The cacophony of voices and the general buzz of neighborhood excitement was palpable. He shot a glance around, searching for the source of Jake's enthusiasm, only to find a small gathering forming in their front yard. People whispering animatedly, their eyes glued to a smartphone. "What's going on?" he asked the nearest neighbor, a man gesturing animatedly at his device. "There's news about an incredible discovery. Apparently someone in the area has come across a treasure of sorts," the neighbor exclaimed, eyes alight with fascination. "They're saying it could be worth millions." A racing thought struck Tom. Was this what Jake had meant? Had they stumbled upon something monumental? Was it possible that this discovery could somehow connect to their earlier revelations about their family legacy? "Jake!" he called out, his voice cutting through the chatter as his son clawed his way through the throng of intrigued friends. "What exactly is happening?" "They found an old safe in a house sold last month," Jake panted, barely able to contain the excitement coursing through him. "It's loaded with cash and valuables, and they're estimating it could be worth close to $87 million. The volume of gasps and murmurs drowned Tom's mounting thoughts, each number echoing in his mind like a chaotic drumbeat. 87 million. The sheer weight of it instigated an overwhelming mix of exhilaration and dread. Wealth could easily distort intentions, complicate relationships, and mask the true meaning of prosperity. "We need to talk about this as a family," he said, instinctively taking charge amid the growing fervor. He recalled the wisdom of the ledger and how resilience and integrity prevailed over monetary gain. "Whatever's happening, this can't just be about the money." Jake's expression shifted, blending confusion with youthful naivety. "But Dad, we can be set for life. We could change everything." The reckless abandon in his tone struck a raw nerve within Tom. "Exactly," Tom shot back, his voice firm yet controlled. "But you have to understand the responsibility it brings too. Money is just a tool. It's how we use it that matters." Sarah watched the exchange, caught between her brother's excitement and her father's caution. Tom could see the flicker of understanding dawning in her eyes, yet it was subtle, ebbing and flowing like a tide. Jake's initial enthusiasm began to falter as he processed Tom's words. "So, we don't even know if it's real, right? It could be a hoax." His voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping in. "But what if it's not?" Sarah challenged, stepping forward, her brows knitted in contemplation. "Could we just ignore it? Wouldn't that go against everything we've been discussing?" the dialogue charged with fresh complexity. Tom sensed that the discovery had not only the potential to change their lives materially, but also to reveal profoundly embedded truths about themselves. Each of them stood at a crossroads, a choice to make that would shape their journey together, refine their character in the process. "Let's think about how we approach this," Tom proposed, a contemplative spark igniting within him. "We also have to remember who we want to be in the light of this revelation." Just as he took a breath for the next steps, the crowd surged forward with renewed energy, pulling Tom's focus back to the moment. The spilling details revealed that local authorities were involved, seeking to authenticate the source, prompting a realization within him. This moment was just the beginning. "Let's make this a catalyst for a conversation about us, our legacy, and the true meaning of wealth," he declared firmly, aware of the looming decisions ahead. As the crowd clamored on, Tom strained to catch his children's eyes, knowing instinctively that this journey would challenge the very essence of their values and relationships in the days to come. He felt the weight of uncharted opportunities ahead, and as excitement mingled with trepidation, he knew the true treasure might emerge not from the safe, but through their collective growth in the face of the unknown. "You're right, this can't just be about striking it rich," Tom concluded. "The real journey starts now." But no sooner had he said it than another buzz erupted from Jake's phone, a notification marked as urgent, leaving Tom with an uneasy feeling that perhaps their family would soon have to confront more than just money. Tom's heart raced as he watched Jake squint at his phone screen, the seriousness of his expression contrasting sharply with the excitement that had initially radiated from him. As a wave of hushed murmurs washed over the crowd, Tom felt an unsettling mix of anxiety and anticipation. The notification seemed to hold the answers to questions he hadn't even thought to ask yet. "What is it, Jake? What does it say?" Tom asked, stepping closer, brushing aside other parents and neighbors who had started to gather closer to catch a glimpse of the spectacle unfolding before them. "It says the police are set to investigate the validity of the claims, but they suspect it might be—" Jake hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. "Lost inheritance," he finally blurted out, the weight of potential history playing across his features. "Lost inheritance?" Tom echoed, his mind grappling with the implications. His family had always been aware of a modest but honorable lineage, but could they have been connected to something so enormous? Was it possible that this treasure had ties to their own inner struggles and unresolved issues regarding their past? "Jake, we should think about how we approach this." Tom struggled to harness the swarm of thoughts. "If it is tied to our family, then we need to know what that means, not just for us, but for everyone involved." Sarah stepped closer, putting herself between Tom and Jake, grounding her brother's enthusiasm with her presence. "You mean there might be other families impacted by this too?" "Exactly." Tom felt a surge of pride as he recognized Sarah's growing maturity. "This isn't just a jackpot. If it's real, it could affect lives. We can't just think of ourselves." As they elaborated their points, a sobering reality washed over Tom. Each family has its own legacy, shaped not just by what has been given to them, but by the moral choices they make in response to those legacies. He was painfully aware of how easily situations could spiral out of control when one lacked grounding principles. "Let's consider what would motivate you to pursue this beyond money," Tom suggested, voice firm and contemplative. "What values do you want to uphold? Do we become a part of something positive, or do we give in to greed? This could define who we are, who we want to be." Jake shifted his gaze downward, mulling over Tom's insistence. "But it feels like an opportunity we can't just ignore. What if we lose it?" "Opportunity rarely comes without its costs," Tom replied, intuition guiding him toward a deeper revelation. "If we go down this path, we need to be open to what we might discover about ourselves, good and bad." It was a critical juncture. The tension in his chest rose with each passing second. The aftermath of their discussion started to emerge, The tangled threads of family history intertwined with potential choices lay beneath the surface. Would they find strength and enlightenment in introspection, or would they succumb to distractions that wealth so often invited? "Let's meet at home and figure out a plan together," Tom interjected, attempting to exert control when the world felt like it was spiraling. "We need to unify our thoughts before making any decisions." As they began to make their way back through the crowd, Tom felt a deep-seated connection forging anew between him and his children. This moment, while ignited by potential fortune, was a profound opportunity for their family to discuss legacy, responsibility, and their conception of wealth. Yet as they reached their front door, another notification on Jake's phone lit up, interrupting their thoughtful retreat. Instinctively, Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Something told him that the next chapter of their journey might not just explore money, but plunge them into unexpected complications. "Hold on, there's more." Jake scanned the screen, his eyes widening in alarm. "It looks like someone claims the treasure belongs to them." Tom inhaled sharply, realizing that their anticipated journey might lead towards confrontation rather than clarity. And as the implications thrummed through him, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. He turned to his children, ready to prepare them for battles beyond wealth, a battle for truth, integrity, and the essence of their family legacy. Tom's heart thudded painfully in his chest as the words hung in the air. Someone else was claiming the treasure. The horizon of possibilities he had envisioned shrunk, swallowing the hopeful aspirations that had just begun to form. It wasn't just a bounty of wealth that was at stake. It was their family's legacy that felt endangered. "Who? How do they know about it?" Jake's voice cracked under the pressure of unanswerable questions. Youthful innocence collided with the gravity of the situation. Tom sensed the urgency to protect his children from the turmoil ahead, yet he also recognized it was a pivotal moment for him to model resilience. "We need information," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "We can't react impulsively. This is about understanding the full picture." Sarah crossed her arms, her brow furrowed in concentration. What if they're lying? What if they're just looking to create chaos? Her anger flickered just beneath her calm surface, revealing a growing maturity that Tom admired. "Then we'll need to confront them with the truth," Tom stated, appreciating Sarah's instinct to seek fairness. He felt a surge of resolve. In this challenge lay the opportunity for his family to embody the values they so passionately discussed just a short while ago. Once inside, they gathered around the kitchen table, their usual sanctuary, transformed now into a strategic command center. The familiar creak of the wooden chairs was a stark reminder of countless family dinners, but their collective energy felt different today, tormented by uncertainty and driven by courage. Tom opened his laptop, the screen bathing their faces in a cool blue glow. "All right, let's get to work. We need to find out who is claiming this treasure and what evidence they have." As Tom typed furiously, his thoughts raced alongside his fingers. The history of his family didn't lend itself easily to discovery, and the implications of this claim haunted him. Each keystroke echoed with questions about legacy and justice. Jake leaned closer, peering over Tom's shoulder. "What if they're just looking for fame, conning people, you know?" "It's possible," Tom conceded, the word con tugging at him. "But we should approach this assuming honesty until proven otherwise." He watched Jake absorb this, teaching moments woven into the fabric of their conversation. Hours dissolved as they sifted through online articles, social media chatter, and public records. Tom struck a balance between authoritatively guiding their search and encouraging both children to contribute thoughts. It was crucial they learn to navigate these murky waters together. Finally, a chilling article emerged, documenting claims by a distant relative. According to this, they say they have legal documents proving their connection to the estate. If it's real... Tom hesitated, the air thick with implications. We might have a legal battle on our hands. Jake looked pale, fear battling with desperation on his youthful face. "But we weren't even looking for this. How can they take it from us?" "Jake," Tom said softly, "it's important to remember that owning something isn't just about possession. It's also about what you do with it." He paused to let that sink in. "If there's a claim, we need to consider if anyone else is entitled to a piece. It's not just about money, it's about doing what's right." The temptation to react solely out of fear or anger loomed large, but Tom felt this moment solidifying his identity as a father, a guardian of moral grounding. He would not shy away from confronting difficult truths, not now. As evening descended, exhaustion mingled with a heightened sense of purpose within him and his children. They were pioneers, armed with knowledge and propelled by determination. Tom proposed a family meeting, a way to discuss the next steps analytically, preparing for possibilities both uplifting and devastating. Just as they began to draft a structured approach, Jake's phone buzzed again, announcing another urgent notification. "Wait," he said breathlessly. "It looks like there's a video emerging. Someone's out there sharing stories about us." Tom's gut twisted. The stakes elevated. They were now at the mercy of public perception. He needed to act decisively, channeling this turmoil into empowerment for himself and for his children. "Let's gather our thoughts. The time has come to face the world outside," he said, realization dawning that their journey would not only test their resources, but their very sense of self. As they collectively braced for the heavy weight of scrutiny, Tom envisioned an unexpected lesson ahead. What might they discover about themselves when everything they stood for was challenged? The thought lingered hauntingly. This journey could redefine who they were as a family, but the unpredictability of it clenched a tight fist around his heart. The air in the kitchen felt electric with tension as Tom prepared to address the world outside, a world now interconnected with their family drama. The weight of uncertainty hung heavily among them, poised to transform their familial bonds. In those moments, he realized the stakes had grown far beyond the mere discovery of riches. The very essence of who they were was on the line. "Listen," Tom began, his voice steadying with each word he spoke. "This situation demands us to confront not just the external claims against us, but the internal family values we hold dear. Let's focus on how we want to respond, acknowledging the legacy we choose to create moving forward." Jake raised an eyebrow, confusion etched across his features. "But what if we're portrayed as greedy, or if they twist our narrative to fit their agenda? We need to protect ourselves." "While those are valid concerns," Tom replied, holding firm, "we have a choice in crafting our narrative. We can choose integrity over aggression. It's crucial that our response remains a reflection of our values, not merely a reaction to their claims. Let's approach this conflict with authenticity." Sarah chimed in, her voice gaining strength in this pivotal moment. "But how do we prove our connection to the treasure? What if they present documents that challenge our claim? We need a plan." Tom could feel the resolve growing stronger amongst them, the shared apprehension morphing into a collective determination. "We gather information, everything we can about the legal implications of their claims. We'll need to consult an attorney and seek to understand our rightful position." Taking a deep breath, Tom continued, "Moreover, we open our hearts. If this treasure could somehow link us to family we never knew existed, we must be prepared to embrace whatever truth that unfolds. It's not just about the monetary value. It's the opportunity for connection we must explore." The ensuing silence spoke volumes as each family member considered the depth of Tom's words. They sat in contemplation, an unexpected collective emotional maturation evident in the way they processed the complicated tapestry of their lives. Later that night, after gathering legal tips and connections, Tom felt a palpable shift. He realized the weight he had been carrying transformed into a natural progression of unity, a moment of shared vulnerability that gave birth to newfound strength. The dialogue shifted from chaos into clarity, knitting them closer through the fabric of their shared values. In the days that followed, Tom and his children worked tirelessly to navigate the complexities swirling around them. They enlisted a lawyer who specialized in inheritance disputes and began to compile documentation that could validate their claims rooted in family history. Every letter, every signed paper became a badge of honor, proof of their journey. Despite the external chaos, within their home, something remarkable began to unfold. They engaged in deeper conversations about morality over wealth, laughter and hope intertwining as they learned to manage their fear by standing together. An unspoken camaraderie emerged. They shared their aspirations, not just for financial freedom, but for hosting holiday gatherings rich with laughter and affirmation, just as Tom had done with his late wife. One fateful evening, as they were poring over the paperwork and crafting a prepared statement in case they received media attention, Jake turned to Tom, his youthful exuberance renewed. "Dad, I've been thinking. What if we reached out to that distant family member, extend an olive branch?" Tom felt a swell of pride at his son's matured perspective. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Jake. We can inspire a conversation founded on transparency rather than resentment. If they believe that money is the sole claim to personal worth, let's redefine that narrative." With each deliberate step they took, a profound transformation unfolded, each member solidifying a personal commitment to family over fortune. They pressed forward, ready to confront the world not as isolated individuals, but as a united front bound by resilience and mutual support. When the time finally came for them to face the public through a press conference, Tom stood before the cameras, Jake and Sarah at his side. His heart swelled as he looked at them. They had become more than just a response to external pressure. They were a cohesive family, prepared to forge their narrative through courage and compassion. "We invite openness and integrity," Tom began, his voice easing into confidence. "What we found represents far more than treasure. It represents the choices we make to navigate challenges. As we uncover this family connection, we are committed to building bridges rather than barriers." The cameras clicked, documenting not mere words, but a significant evolution. They had taken the chaotic weight of discovery and turned it into a shared opportunity for growth. Later, as they stepped away from the podium, their eyes glistening with pride, Tom knew they had fortified their core identity, not just as beneficiaries of unexpected wealth, but as protectors of a legacy rooted in honesty, responsibility, and authenticity. In the days ahead, as they worked alongside legal teams and family connections, they would come to realize that confronting the past would ultimately illuminate their future. The tale of glory now weaved together not just lessons of finances, but strong threads of trust, resilience, and the enduring spirit of family. They had taken the burden of discovery and transformed it into meaning, solidifying the metamorphosis they had each undergone. Tom felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His children had become champions of their legacy, each demonstrating remarkable growth their family could lean on. This journey wasn't merely about the treasure, it was about clarifying the values that wealth often obscured, creating a foundation upon which they could build a legacy of their own. They stepped back into their lives no longer overshadowed by uncertainty, but illuminated by unity. This was not just an ending, but the beginning of something profound, a commitment to excel in life's complexities with a shared, deep-seated understanding of wealth, responsibility, and the true meaning of family connection. The journey had transformed them profoundly. They were ready to embrace the future, equipped with understanding, unity, and a newfound solid confidence. Now is the moment for you to take action. If you found inspiration in Tom's journey, you need to subscribe now to not miss any upcoming exclusive emotional stories that can reshape your perspective. Leave a like now to fuel this channel's reach. Every click counts and truly makes a difference in sharing these powerful narratives. Comment your thoughts, theories, or experiences related to this conclusion, because your voice matters. And finally, don't wait. Even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness Tom's transformation and the valuable lessons learned. Join the movement and be part of stories that can change lives.